Okay, well, good afternoon. My name is Deb Kutzka, and I'm a Sustainability Program Manager with Cook County's Department of Environment and Sustainability. And I'm very excited today to share the launch of our Climate Resiliency Planning for Communities program with all of you. Please note that this presentation is intended specifically for municipal staff or individuals representing specific municipalities who are interested in applying for the program. This presentation is not intended for vendors or partners who are interested in taking part in the planning process, and we will not be discussing the procurement of planning services as that solicitation is in development. So with that being said, again, just a reminder that this is currently being recorded and that the recording will be posted on our website. And I will begin sharing my screen here. And Kate, if you can help to admit people, I don't think I'm going to be able to see the lobby right now. So once again, welcome to this informational webinar for potential applicants for our climate resiliency planning program. Right now, we're going to be talking a little bit about climate resiliency, not spending a ton of time on the background, talking about an overview of the program and what to expect, eligibility details. We're going to walk through the application process, cover some key dates, and then I will be answering your questions. So as most folks know by this point, the climate is changing, and we are seeing that evidence daily. With this changing climate comes a number of different impacts, including increased frequency and intensity of storms, severe precipitation events that can cause flooding. The pictures on the left are something many of us are familiar with, and extreme heat events. All of these events we know can negatively impact health and safety for our residents. Either that can be from direct impacts of the flooding causing damage and harm to individuals, or the sustained health impacts from things like mold after flooding has occurred. We also recognize that it can result in personal and physical damages, again, through personal loss of furniture and belongings, physical damages to residences as well as businesses, and all of the associated elements that come along with those physical damages. One of which is financial distress. So all of these events can cause a lot of financial impacts, both in repairing and remedying situations, rebuilding, calling in services to do restoration and replacing items and inventory as the case may be. It also may impact job loss, time having to take away from your job in order to tend to these things, and a number of other issues. That can also then result in difficulty bouncing back from these situations as they occur. Most folks recognize that the residents who are most impacted by these climate threats have already faced generations of environmental injustice and disinvestment. So it's very important to us to reach those residents first and foremost to ensure that they are not only able to withstand the different impacts of climate, but also come out stronger after these events occur. And that's what leads us to resiliency and the focus of this project. So being resilient means that communities are prepared to handle events in ways that reduce the safety concerns and damage that may come with them. And again, not just surviving them, but recovering and bouncing back from those events in a way that is affordable and timely, that it doesn't put them out even longer than they need to be as they're trying to repair or remedy the situations that they're found in. It also means that we're thriving in the face of continued changes. We know that we're only beginning to see the effects of climate change and that there are many sometimes unpredictable effects that are going to be coming with it. So in order to create the social resiliency, the physical resiliency, environmental resiliency of our communities, we think that it's an important approach to take when doing these planning efforts. Resiliency solutions are many. It can include green infrastructure and other nature-based solutions. That can be a wide net of projects and activities, from planting trees or putting in bioswales in parking lots, replacing non-permeable pavement with permeable pavement, even planting native plants at residences like rain gardens, things of that nature. We also think of resiliency solutions when it comes to renewable energy investments. So again, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and the carbon that we're putting out into the atmosphere, but also making buildings ready to support renewable energy if they're new, or investing in those energy infrastructure elements to ensure that existing buildings are able to withstand these changes. It can also cover things that are outside of infrastructure or big installations. So things like new policies or the way a community approaches land and stormwater management, staffing, ability to maintain different services that are installed. It doesn't all have to be money into big installations or even things that we can see with the naked eye sometimes with these resiliency measures. We also recognize that climate resiliency plans need to focus on equity and sustainability. So equity is a central piece of everything that we're trying to do at the county, but also with the federal funds that we're bringing in. So important that we're thinking about our entire community as being equitable, knowing that there are many different communities and groups within the county, but also within your own communities, ensuring that it's equitable to all of the residents and businesses and folks who are impacted on a daily basis, whether visiting or working in your community. They also need to focus on sustainability. So again, how can we be sustainable with the environmental and fiscal side of these plans, but also how can those plans be kept up and referred to and maintained and have the resources over time to make sure that they're being implemented appropriately. So we're going to get into the specifics of this program. The funding for this program is from the American Recovery Plan Act. So we refer to it as ARPA, and we have a number of projects that you'll see that are funded by ARPA through the county. So this is one of many. Our Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability is the entity that's leading this project, but we will be working together with a community engagement and planning consultant. And with that partner, we will support 5 municipalities in developing climate resiliency plans and then provide implementation funding to help set up those communities to thrive. So as we all know, there are often good intentions with plans where they get developed, but then because of a number of reasons, whether it be turnover or staffing or funding resources, those plans can sit on shelves. And we really want to make sure that that isn't the case with these plans, that we can do some implementation immediately to help support you moving forward in the coming years. So we've broken the project into 2 phases. The first phase begins this year and goes through next, and it involves a community-driven planning and prioritization process. So working with communities, setting goals, identifying projects that will help bolster resiliency, and having the consultants work with that community input to develop individualized and detailed plans. Again, these plans are going to vary depending on the community we're working with. We want the plans to represent the diversity and individuality of each of the communities and support the needs that you want, rather than being like a cookie cutter plan that's just applied across the board. The second phase, it runs from 2024 to 2026, and this is where we'll have funds that are available to implement portions of plans for a variety of possible projects. Of course, we can't guarantee to fund every project that is mentioned in these plans. We know that there is not enough to go around for all of those, but our hope is to do a comprehensive review of all of the different projects and ideas that come out of the different plans, and then identify which sort of projects we can put through based on the needs of the community, the cost, the feasibility, and of course the timeline. So these funds do need to be obligated by the end of 2024 and spent down by the end of 2026. There, of course, can be projects within the plans that don't fit in that timeline, but the funding specifically will only be available to support projects that can happen during that period. And these funds are only available to communities that successfully complete the first phase of the program. So if you are one of those communities that has a plan and it's active and you're just looking for funding to support how you can implement some of those ideas, unfortunately, this wouldn't be the fit for you, but we are happy to work with you to identify other routes as they come up, because we're constantly looking for different funding sources and opportunities to support our communities. So who is eligible for this program? In order to be considered for the opportunity, communities must be a municipality located within suburban Cook County. Unfortunately for this effort, neighborhoods within the city of Chicago are not eligible. This is focused specifically on the suburbs. We also ask that the communities who are applying do not have an existing climate resiliency plan, adaptation plan, climate action plan, or similar that's been updated within the past 6 years. So if you do have a previous plan and just hasn't been updated, then you certainly are eligible to submit an application. If you've just had a climate plan done in the past couple of years, then we want to open this up to folks who haven't. You also must demonstrate a need for technical assistance due to insufficient funding, staff capacity, or other necessary resources. And we'll walk through the application a little bit, and you'll be able to see some of the questions we're asking to gauge that. We will ask you to commit to working with the county and our designated consultant to host community feedback sessions, to respond to our information requests, and to actively participate in the climate resiliency planning process. And then, of course, submitting a complete application. So this opportunity is open to any community that meets the eligibility criteria above. If we do get a lot of applicants and they're all at similar levels with the assessment that we do after reviewing the applications, then we may use priority consideration based on the Environmental Justice Index. So this is a Center for Disease Control tool that you can find online, and we've linked to it on the website as well. Again, this isn't going to be the main indicator. It's just something that will help us prioritize depending on the reach this project gets and the interest. So the application process. This application is currently available online. We launched the program last week on February 1st, and there is a Microsoft Form application. You will need the internet or mobile phone access and approximately 30 to 45 minutes to complete the application. In order to make things a little bit easier and accessible for everyone, we have put the application questions in a PDF, which is available on the website to review the questions. This is for your reference only, and I'll pull that up in just a moment, but you may not email this form to apply. So it is just for you to help in shaping your thoughts and your responses before you get to the actual form. We recommend you complete the application in a single sitting. Some folks have been able to start a Microsoft form, stop it, and then come back to it, but that isn't always the case, and we don't want you to lose any progress you might have had. So we do recommend that you complete the application in a single sitting. And all questions are either multiple choice or open-ended responses. So I am going to pull up our website so that you can see what everything looks like and where you'll find this information. And this is cookcountyil.gov/climate resiliency. So it is publicly available at this point on our website. And you'll find a lot of the information I've already just shared with you today, including the different phases and the eligibility. In addition, you will see this application. So the application form itself is embedded in the website. You can complete it here by using the navigation buttons and filling in your answers right there. If you prefer, you can click on how to apply, and it will open up in a separate browser window that's a little bit bigger for you. You can zoom in and see more of the space. So that's just personal preference. And as I mentioned, on the right-hand side here under downloads, there is a climate resiliency planning application PDF. So this PDF, let me go to the beginning of it, is recommended for just review and reference so that you can prepare yourself for the application, especially if you need input from other staff members or partners in order to build out the responses. And you'll have some basic questions about your contact information, and then your relationship to the community. So again, if you are an employee of the municipality or if you're a hired city planner under a contract and working on behalf of the municipality, we just ask you to include that relationship and that information. We'll ask about some existing planning efforts, what you've done in the past when it comes to climate planning, or if you have other related plans like bike and ped plans or tree plans, anything that may be related to climate resiliency, which can be incorporated then in your application and in the resilience planning if you make it to that stage. We'll ask some questions about potential impact, such as your staffing available and partnerships to support climate resiliency planning. What's kept you from doing it up until now? What sort of resources do you need? And also, if you would prefer to work in a coordinated way with partnering or neighbor communities, we also have an opportunity here for you to select that you'd like to do a joint climate resiliency plan and identify the neighboring communities that you might like to incorporate. We do want to see some of these funds go towards green infrastructure because we think it's an important part of climate resiliency for our region. So we will ask some questions here about your green infrastructure commitments or projects that you might like to do in the near future, as well as recognizing that maintenance of those green infrastructure projects can sometimes be a challenge. So trying to figure out, again, what your current staffing and support is, or what would you need in order to effectively maintain the projects. We're also committing as part of the planning process to incorporate recommendations for the maintenance element and see how we can help support identifying future funding beyond the ARPA funding. Then we have questions about your community. What's special about it? What are areas that you want to highlight or that you want to make sure your residents are going to keep in mind when we're doing this planning? And how can residents be part of the process? So are they engaged with public participation at your meetings? Do you have steering committees or regular contact points with community members where you would be able to share opportunities and have them involved? And then we have just brief spot for you to talk about climate hazards. What are you already seeing in your community related to climate change, or what do you anticipate seeing as the climate continues to change? And the final questions are just agreeing to, everything that's in here and that you'll commit to participating throughout the process if selected. So with that being said, I'll go back to the presentation here. And we do encourage, again, you to use that as a reference. We are asking that you not just complete the PDF. Of course, I'm showing you the same screen. That you don't complete the PDF and email that to us. We do want them all in the Microsoft form. If at any time you're having problems accessing the form, completing your responses, please let us know. I'll be including my email address so that you can reach out to me with any questions you may have. So some key dates, again, the application is already open and I'm happy to say we've already had applicants. So I'm glad to see that there is interest in this program. February 9th is today. We're doing our webinar. After today, we will be posting this recording on the website. So if you need to come back to anything we've discussed here today, you will be able to, or you can share it with community partners and anyone who you think might be interested in applying. We are asking that you submit all questions you have about this project in the application to DES. So you can ask questions here today in just a moment, or you can email me questions. And when you do, those will also be posted on the website. In the download section where I had just shown you to get the PDF, there's another PDF that has frequently asked questions. I will be updating those regularly based on the questions that we receive from you. I will remove all identifying information, so we won't include your municipality or your name, but we'll generalize the question and answer it so that everyone has access to the same information. And the applications right now are due to close at 5 p.m. Central Time on March 8th. So it gives you a month to complete the application. We've tried to make it as little of a burden as possible on you so that you're not having to submit like engineering and design plans or a lot of supplementary details. We really just want to get a feel for why this is important and how you think you can incorporate climate resiliency planning within your community. We will be inviting some communities to do interviews potentially after we receive the applications, and then doing an internal review of all of those applications. And we will be announcing the program awardees in spring of 2023. So again, keep your eyes on the website and check back there for updates on the frequently asked questions, as well as any announcements. I will be communicating directly with you if you put in an application to let you know where we are in the process, that we've received your application, if you've been invited to an interview, and then those steps along the way. So with that being said, I do have my email here, and I have the website where we just were about climate resiliency. And I will stop sharing my presentation and open it up to any questions that folks may have. So let's see. So I see there's one question asking only 5 plans will be completed. Yes, at this point, we have identified 5. We're planning on 5 communities that will be serviced through this project. There is roughly $16 million that have been allocated to this program. That includes the planning, but it also includes the implementation. And knowing that implementation of a lot of these climate resiliency projects can be expensive with the cost of shipping and labor and all of the other things that we're facing, we want to make sure that there is enough funding to support implementing good chunks of these resiliency plans. That being said, we're constantly evaluating to see how we can make our budget work for what the communities want, and hopefully that this can serve as a model as we review other funding opportunities as they become available. So I have another question about the community having a stormwater master plan, and does that disqualify you? No. Stormwater master plan, a bike and ped plan, a tree plan, those are small, not small, but elements of climate resiliency. So you may certainly be eligible still if you have any of those individual plans about stormwater or bike and ped, trees, etc. It's only if you have a resiliency plan or a full climate action plan, those ones that incorporate multiple aspects of resiliency. Have you picked the designated consultant for developing these plans? As I mentioned at the top of this presentation, we're still in the solicitation process, so we can't really answer any questions right now about that procurement, but no, we do not have a consultant at this point. And I have, if a community endorsed the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Climate Action Plan for the Chicago region, would that be considered as having a climate action plan? I would say it would not, because that is a plan for the entire region, something that we're all working towards. We really want these to be individualized for the community or for a partnership of nearby communities. So that would not disqualify you from participating. And we will, as I mentioned, I'll take all of these questions I just answered and then put them into the frequently asked questions PDF on our website so that those will be available to you. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, so if anybody else has questions and wants to put them in the chat, or if you'd really like to unmute yourselves, you can raise your hand and we can allow that as well. And if there are no other questions, then we can close out a few minutes early. I thank you all for your time and your energy here to listen to this presentation and your interest in the project. And we look forward to seeing more applications come in for participation.
We have a couple more questions.
I see them popping up. So one is, again, asking about one consultant supporting all 5 plans or individual consultants for each community. That's not something that we can discuss today because we're in the solicitation process. Partnership of communities is allowed. So there is a question, I can't remember which question it is, 14 or 15, where we do ask if you would like to do a partnership, a partnered plan or a joint plan with multiple communities. So yes, you may, and we ask you to identify those communities that you would like to work with. So if you have 1 or 2 communities, 3 communities in a small region that you would be working closely together, then yes, that would be permitted. And yeah, another question about considering joint plans for several communities. So yes. Well, thank you so much. With that, we are going to end this recording and close the session. Please feel free to check back on the website for any updates and reach out to me if you have any questions, and have a wonderful day.